Oh, I see. There's some people in the chat. They should join the Zoom.
Well, I would like to listen. Not that anyone is obliged to agree with me, but I would like to thank you both for having what is undoubtedly the least blood pressure inducing conversation I've ever had about this topic.
I'm glad to have been a part of that.
I
Listen,
am
I
so
am
glad that
glad
you
to
were
have
both.
been educated, and I
I'm
thank
so
you so
glad
much
that
for being willing to share with us.
you are so welcome. You're very, very welcome, and I'm so glad that you were both. I'm so glad you were both here for that. I really am. I'm as somebody who, you know, yeah, I'm really glad you were both here for that. Thank you. This has meant a lot. It doesn't even have to be over. I mean, it is 11:30. It doesn't have to end right now, but I mean, I won't be on for much longer because I have to. I'm, you know, working again. We all have, well, work and whatnot, but I really do. I really appreciate this. It's. I know for myself, on this topic in particular, it's still a process, and I do have to learn somehow. I do have to learn sometimes not to get too wild when it comes to this topic, because again, I would, you know, it's not that legitimate criticisms of like the Israeli government are not anti-Semitic, but a lot of times people will take it in a direction, and you know, and again, like I said, people who want to, you know, criticize Israel want to say it has nothing to do with being Jewish, but then they'll like come at me or like somebody else like me. So it's can't have it both ways.
Sure.
It's so it has nothing. Do you know what I mean? It has nothing to do with it. Again, it has nothing to do. Right. So it's okay to.
So I don't think that's a fair criticism, and I hear it, and I don't think it's a fair criticism. And I'm only speaking from the shoes that I walk in when people try to separate, you know, Black issues from. Well, you know, they say things like, "Well, I'm not racist," but well, why are you asking me then? You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm not to be racist, but why do Black people? Well, hold on. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
it's
like I
so
listen.
yeah. So
I
it has
get
nothing.
Like,
right, exactly. But again, you know, again,
I'm not saying you're racist, but you
exactly.
can't.
Well, usually what I notice about like never in person, but a lot of times when people are online, like they'll be like, you know, they'll immediately jump to the legitimate criticism, like, you know, criticizing the Israeli government is anti-Semitic, but then you look back to like two or three previous posts and they're like, Israel should not be allowed to exist. Like, so that's where it's like those people specifically. Like, I'm perfectly willing to have discussions about like some of the effed up stuff that Israel is doing lately because it is. And
well, my personal perspective is I don't feel that being critical of the Israeli government or any government is anti the people, but to separate it, to say that, well, it's not about Jewish people, I'm not going to do that either. Because that's
that's the thing.
Yeah, like you live in the country. That's, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And
like,
I don't live, I mean, I've been to Israel. I don't live in Israel, but I mean, but I don't live in Israel. I don't think I would want to, but nevertheless, I do feel I feel a connection to it, even though, but I think just because knowing that the history of my people like started there, it's like again, it's like, no, like I said something about like the Chinese government earlier. Do you know what I mean? And the truth is that like, it's not, you know, phobic to like criticize the government, but at the same time, even if you're a Chinese person and you were born here, you know that like your ancestors, like that's where you came from. So when somebody, it's gonna get to a place where if you talk about it, you have to be like, if you want to have a dope conversation with somebody, you have to be respectful, and you have to be respectful of them and of the fact that like, you have to like, I think there is an obligation to show that like, you have to be able like to learn to make that distinction between the government and the people, and not assume that like, well, if this is how they're running the country, that's how these people must really be.
It's interesting when and where people choose to exercise cognitive dissonance. And I wonder if it's just in ignorance or if it is actually proactive. And I mean, I've been in conversations with people where I've had to say, you know, almost contrary to what we're talking about now, where like I might be talking about racism in America, and someone will say, well, it's not all white people, and it's like, well, yeah, I know. I'm
Right.
not
Yeah. Oh,
talking
you've
about
gotten. Oh, yeah. Of course, you've
you know what I
gotten that
mean?
one.
Like I'm not talking.
Yeah, of course you've gotten that
You know
one.
what I mean?
No, it's true. It's like,
So it's like,
yeah, it's not. Yeah, seriously. Like white supremacy is real and it's dangerous. Acknowledging that doesn't mean that you hate all white people. Like
right.
it's like so stupid. Yeah, it's of course, and you have to be able to talk about that. And so like, and again, yeah, exactly. But
It doesn't even mean that I hate white people.
right, but if you're right, but however, it just right. But if you say certain things, like if you say like there are other things that you could say that.
I mean, I saw some things today that I didn't
reflect a certain, yeah.
Someone posted a meme that said something like, every time I hear someone say it's wrong to blame white people for everything, I feel like smacking them or something like that. You know what I mean? And like I'm of the sentiment, like, first of all, that speaks to like exactly what you're saying. Like, what are you saying? Right? That's offensive. I don't hate white people. I don't hate white people. You know what I mean? At all. Like, I just don't. If I'm critical of racism, that's something different. It's not exclusive. It doesn't exclude white people, but it doesn't mean that I'm talking about every white person any more than like what we're talking about with Israel, right? Like, if I live in a racist society where the government proactively still had slaves or what have you, and I was critical of the government, does it mean I hate all the people? You understand what I'm saying? I'm critical of that institution that allows it. So I get it. Like, I think people can be critical of Israel just as much as people can be critical of things like PLO, things like Hamas, and not hate Palestinian citizens or Jewish citizens. You know what I mean?
Who are just
like
caught up in all of it. Yeah.
Right. Who are living in this country.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like it's like anything else, like any government, traveling abroad. I would imagine traveling abroad when Trump was president in particular was I heard a lot of experience from my friends who went about the reception that they got when they went to other countries, and they're like, yo, but I didn't vote for him. But nevertheless, there's that, you have to learn to dissociate like the government who, not everybody voted for him. So, but the assumption that you support what the president is doing because that's the country, that's your country, and that's where you.
What do you think about this? Somebody posted a meme today. A Christian.
I put no stock in memes at all. But go on.
Well, me neither. They don't educate. But it was a Christian that I know.
But unfortunately, that's what passes. That's what it appeals to emotions, and that's what suffices for like discourse these days. Sadly.
Well, this meme ultimately blamed Biden for what happened. It said that Trump cut funding to the Palestinians, and Biden gave them so much money, and then it ultimately concluded with, when you fund terrorism.
Oh, that's a right-wing talking point. Yeah. Like it's because Trump cut. Right. Well, Trump cut funding to the Palestinians, and there was nothing like this had happened. Then Biden gives them money, and look what happens. Right. So they're just right. It's a right-wing talking point. Now, here's the thing. It's well known, or should be, that a lot of the funds that get sent there, which are intended for humanitarian aid, get intercepted by Hamas, and they just use that to buy rockets and shit, and this is, and build.
It happens in Africa all the time.
Yeah.
The aid that's meant for citizens never gets to them.
Right. It's meant to build. It's meant to build roads and schools and hospitals. That's what it's. And shelters, that's what the money. That's why the money is being sent there, and it's they deserve it. But then that's where it goes instead. So, is Biden responsible for? No. That's would they? Okay, so is he responsible for it?
I would say indirectly. I would say No.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
indirectly, yes, and ultimately, no. So Biden
Right,
certainly
because that's not
did what he was
that's
supposed to do.
exactly. It's not. Yeah, it's indirect because it's not. Yeah, I mean that's he sent the money. It's not that was not what the money was sent there for. He knew that.
Right.
Everybody knew that. Did they also know that this would happen? I don't know. Judging from history, should he have been aware? Maybe, but what is he going to do? You know, again, Trump cut funding there, which, you know, prevented things like this from happening more often. But at the same time, was it good that they got no money at all? I don't think so.
I mean, this is all art of war.
Yeah,
Should he have known? Should he have known that something like this was going to happen?
Yeah.
I'm almost positive that somebody said, like, somebody wrote down everything and said these are all the potential. These are all the potential, and Biden had to make a call of conscience.
Yeah, he did, which is at least more than you could expect from our last president. But at the same time, yeah, and these are people who these are people who are suffering. They do need help. They really do, and they should get it. And it's not their fault that they've been like hijacked by like a terrorist organization who has complete control of the area and won't leave. Like they just won't leave, and it's not their fault. They're suffering because of it. They deserve help. They really do. But yeah, I mean, again, like you said, like I think that's probably a good way to say it. No, it was never his intent for that to happen. And you know, sending humanitarian aid to people who need it should never be looked at as a negative. But I mean, yeah, I don't want to blame him for this, but
well, that would be the tactic, right? Like, if I'm planning this, I'm going to make America complicit.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that.
Why not?
I know how American citizens operate. They're going to get on social media and they're going to argue with each other over it, because this is what Americans do. Like, this is literally what. Listen.
That's so interesting. I never really thought about that from like a tactical perspective.
Well, that's what old boy who got us on 9/11 did. What's his name?
Oh, Osama.
Osama was like, they're gonna tear each other down, right? Yeah. Like they're gonna
really.
Yeah,
wow.
The Russians know that we do it.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we do. We get on social media, not even social media. Like, we do it prior to social media. We get in our media and we have two networks set up to just argue with each other over our differences of opinion that the world can watch. You know what I mean? CNN and sit back
and eat popcorn and watch the show, right?
Yeah, it's like, what is is it Bane who does that, or no? Is it no, Ra's al Ghul does that in Batman Begins?
Let's just bring it all back. Yeah.
He puts some kind of stuff in the water and says, we're going to watch the city tear itself apart.
Yes. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's basically what they did.
I mean, once we show the world that this is what we do, why would they not use this as a point of strategy? So, Sam, can you hear me, Sam? I gotta run. Can we do this tomorrow?
Sure.
I would love that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I gotta run. I gotta actually get in my car and drive to drop something off at a friend's house. This book that her son has been begging me for.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's got a code for Fortnite in it, and he doesn't have school, so he wants to play, and it'll let him play as Harley Quinn. And she's the one who keeps calling and interrupting. I'm like, I'm gonna come. But this conversation has just been so awesome. Yeah, I'd love for us to, agree to meet tomorrow and have another Zoom.
Cool.
That would be amazing. This has been a pleasure. Thank you both.
Yo, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
No doubt.
Love you both, man. Both of y'all have a good one.
All right.
You too.
One love.
Good night. One love. Peace. Good night, brothers.
All right. Good night.